Hello and welcome back to The Long Way Forward. This is episode 26. Wow, 26 episodes. So far so good. Today, we're going to answer a simple question together. And it's one I've been asked a fair bit along the journey. And I've asked myself as well, what is leadership behaviour? Now, if you've been following along through the earlier episodes, you'll know that we've already explored leadership from a few angles. And leadership, by the way, doesn't have to be leadership of teams. It doesn't mean king or queen of the world. It just means taking charge, whether it's a group, a situation, or your life. So we're looking at leadership through that lens. We've talked about leadership without a title. It's pretty obvious. We've talked about decision-making under pressure. And we've talked about helping others become better at what they do, not from an illness, just better versions of themselves. Today, though, I want to slow it down a little, strip it back, and really dive into and really answer this question properly. What is leadership behaviour? Because once you understand what leadership behaviour is, you stop waiting for permission to lead. Too many people wait for that tap on the shoulder, that little nod from the peer group, almost as if they're waiting for permission. This is your life. You don't need to wait for permission to lead your life. Let's start with this concept. Leadership behaviour is not a title. It's not a position, and it's not authority that's magically bestowed upon you. It's not authority. Leadership behaviour is how you act when nobody is telling you what to do. It's the way you show up. It's the standards you hold. Leadership behaviour is the choices you make, especially when the way forward is unclear. Here's where many people get it wrong. People often think leadership starts when someone gives you responsibility. But in reality, leadership behaviour starts long before that. That's how leaders get picked, by the way, at work. The bosses get together, they look at who's doing what, and they work out who the leaders are. They do it because those people, although they haven't got the titles, they're evidencing leadership in their behaviour. You usually find they have it in their life as well. Leadership behaviour starts in the small moments. You walk into a workplace, something's not working properly. A process is broken, people are frustrated. No one is stepping forward. Leadership behaviour doesn't complain about it. It doesn't wait for someone else to fix it. Leadership behaviour is asking yourself, what can I do to improve this? Even if it's small, even if it's not your job, even if you think no one notices, and chances are, a lot of the time, no one will. Don't do this expecting a pat on the back from the others, because a lot of the time it doesn't happen. But believe me, it does get noticed when it matters. So doing these things, even if it's small, even if it's not your job, even if no one notices, improving something and fixing a problem, that is leadership behaviour, my friends. That is leadership. Now, here's something important. Leadership behaviour is not loud. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. Most of the time, it's quiet. Leadership behaviour is consistency. It's showing up. It's reliability. It's doing the right thing, even when no one's watching, repeatedly. Even more so when others are watching, but doing the right thing repeatedly. Let's have some fun. Think about someone you trust. I'm thinking about that one person. Well, I trust quite a few people actually, but I'm thinking about someone I trust now, and I'd like you to do that too. Hopefully it's someone different. Why do you trust them? Think about that. Why do I trust that person? Is it because of what they say? No. It's because of what they do. It's because over time, I've seen them show up, follow through. They stay consistent. They don't change under pressure. That's leadership behaviour. Now, for the next step, I always push it a little. Today's no different, episode 26. And by the way, if you're enjoying The Long Way Forward, it'd be awesome if you'd subscribe. Comment away. I love the comments, but definitely trying to grow this channel, grow this podcast. If you like it, like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends. Let's take us that one step further. Let's dive back into leadership. Enough self-promo. Take this one step further. There's another layer to this whole leadership behaviour thing that matters just as much as the behaviour and the consistency, doing what you say you're going to do. It's the concept of being a role model. Because although it doesn't get noticed a lot, you will remember that I said these behaviours do get noticed. Whether you realise it or not, you are already modelling behaviour. Everything you do, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you dress, and this isn't meant to make you feel self-conscious, by the way. The actions that you take are observed by others. So you model behaviour by doing that. Good behaviour, bad behaviour, it's behaviour. Not in a formal way, mind you. We're just humans being. Not humans being. Humans being? Yeah, not human beings. We are humans being. And in a very human way, people are observing you. They're observing how you react under pressure, how you speak to people, what you tolerate, what you ignore, what you allow, what you follow up on, and what you don't. And this is where leadership becomes very real, because other people's expectations are not set by what you say. They're set by what you do. People's expectations of you are set by what you demonstrate. Now think back to that person that we talked about, that you identified. Is it fair to say that your expectations of them are set by what you've seen them do? 100%. You can tell a team to be on time. If you're late, that's the standard. You can say quality matters. But if you accept average work, then that becomes the standard. That becomes the expectation. That is your leadership right there. You can talk about respect, but if poor behaviour goes unchecked, that becomes the culture. This is why role modelling is so powerful, because it removes confusion. It replaces words with evidence. Because great leaders don't just set expectations. Great humans, great people don't just set expectations. They exemplify them. That's a really neat word. Fancy word, that. Exemplify. It means walking the talk. If you expect accountability, you take accountability first. If you expect consistency in your life, you should demonstrate that. Demonstrate consistency. And if you expect calm under pressure, you better be staying calm when things go wrong. And when your behaviour matches your expectations, trust builds. And it builds pretty quickly because people can see it. They don't have to guess what you're going to do. But when there's a gap between what you say and what you do, trust disappears just as quickly. And this is where that idea comes from. What you walk past is what you accept. Think about that. What you walk past is what you accept. Because people don't follow your words. They follow what you will allow. Do you find that? People treat you, they follow what you allow. Now let's bring this back to the core behaviours of leadership. In life, at work, a team, doesn't matter, anywhere. The first core behaviour is ownership. of a situation, of a circumstance, of a set of work, of an outcome. Ownership. Leaders take responsibility and they ask, what can I do to improve this? I own it. I want to fix it. I want to grow it. The second is consistency. They show up the same way day after day. That builds trust. And the third is alignment. Their actions match what they stand for. If they stand for integrity, you better bet they show it. If they stand for truthfulness, well, they will be truthful. Might hurt, but they'll be truthful. The fourth is awareness. Great people, great leaders, great humans understand that their behaviour influences others. They're self-aware and they're aware of others. It's called emotional intelligence. It's a whole new concept. Not new, it's a whole separate concept, and we'll dive into it separately. But awareness, understanding that your behaviour influences others, is massive. And the fifth item I'm going to tap in there is courage. Because doing the right thing isn't always easy. And sometimes it can come at a personal cost. That's why you need courage. Now that personal cost, you know what? When it comes to doing the right thing, 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, it's worth it. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is worth it in the long run. Now let's connect this to real life. At work, helping someone instead of leaving them stuck. Improving a process instead of working around it. Or taking responsibility, taking ownership, even when it's not fully yours. At home, with the kids, keeping your word, setting the tone, being consistent. And in your personal life, following through, holding standards, and making aligned decisions. Leadership is not something you switch on. It's how you operate. Think of it as like an OS for the human soul. Leadership behaviour, you can't just switch it on. You're either doing it or you're not. Now here's something important to think about. Leadership behaviour builds over time. It compounds, like building a ladder, like a stairway to heaven, Led Zeppelin would say. Small actions repeated over time. These small actions, when you repeat them, build trust, they build influence, and they build opportunity. Because when you consistently demonstrate leadership behaviour, something funny happens. People start trusting you, and that's cool. That is so cool, being trusted. My mother always trusted me. She said, trust Brian. I think that was trust. No, I'm joking. When you demonstrate leadership behaviour and people start trusting you, then they rely on you and they look to you. And before you know it, you're leading. You never asked for it, but you just are. Here's something to take away this week. I want you to ask yourself, where in my life can I demonstrate leadership behaviour right now? And if you're not sure what that means, dive back to earlier in this podcast and write down the list I talked about. Think of it as a checklist. Where in my life am I demonstrating leadership? Or where might I demonstrate leadership? Not where you have authority, by the way. Where you are. Then ask, if I did demonstrate leadership behaviour, what would that look like? So just pick that one thing that you could do that aligns with your values and you aligns with what you stand for. And if you're not sure about what you stand for, pop back to episode 1, 2, and 3 where we dive into that in depth, because that's the foundation of this whole podcast. Think of it, what you stand for, literally is the foundations for who you are and how you portray yourself. So if you pick that one thing that aligns with that and aligns with leadership, just one thing, and do it, then come back to me in the comments and tell me what you did and how it worked for you. Because leadership behaviour is not something you learn once and forget. It's something you practice daily. Now remember, if it's in alignment with the values we talked about in episodes 1, 2, and 3, then that's how it will compound over time for you. In the next episode, we're going to go deeper again. We're going to ask the question, what does good leadership look like? What does it actually look like? Because understanding behaviour that we've covered in this episode, understanding your behaviour, other people's behaviour, that's one thing. Seeing it in action is another. This is the Long Way Forward podcast. Thank you so much for listening and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, do subscribe. If you've got any questions or comments, comment away. I love to see them. I always respond to my comments, by the way. And by the way, if this is your first time here, I've said it before, I highly recommend popping back, diving into episodes 1, 2, and 3, because that's where it all sets up and we roll from there. I post on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so if you're subscribing, I do hope to see you back again in future episodes. Thank you.